Today's podcast is brought to you by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. Accidents happen. Without the right coverage from the right insurance company, damage to your automobile can be a real financial hit. That's why Kentuckians appreciate the competitive rates and personal service they get from Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. When the unexpected happens, count on us to help you get back on the road. To request a free quote, find your local KFB insurance agent at mykfbagent.com. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment. Matt, guess what week it is?
It's the start of a lot of work.
You were supposed to sound way more excited.
Of a lot of warm weather and a whole lot of fun.
A whole lot of fair. It's the state fair this week.
It's the state fair. You know, I love. There's something about going. It's weird. I have different tasks than you. I feel like you're there. Like you just might as well bring a tent. I don't quite have to do that. Right. Like I come and go, and I hit some certain things. Obviously, preparing for our big event, the ham breakfast. I'm there the day before, and that kind of stuff. We do have a live recording of the podcast. If folks are, the
only Monday of the fair. It's very easy to remember. Fair is the 20th through the 30th. We are recording on the Monday.
Yeah, if everything that's going on at the fair, if you're like, you know what I want to do actually is listen to those two people talk.
And if you listen to last week's podcast, you know what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You're supposed to, if you want to be our favorite listener, you bring us a cookie.
Cookie?
From the Cookie Man. You walk into the South Wing, you come hang out with us and listen to us do this fun banter.
Yes, so the 24th, the only Monday of the state fair, like you said. We're doing 1 and 2 o'clock. We have some cool guests.
Yep.
One of them will be very recognizable if you walk up. I'm not going to, I can't say, right? Can I say?
She's like the only one in Kentucky.
Kentucky. She's royalty.
She glistens. That makes it sound like she's sweating. I changed my mind. She sparkles.
Sparkles. And she's amazing. She's Miss Kentucky.
Miss Kentucky, yeah.
Yeah, so Miss Kentucky is going to talk to us. So, yeah, just come by if you want to say hi to us and hear us do what we do right here. But, yeah, State Fair's here. It's a lot of days in a row, and you do a lot of work, but it's, tradition for so many folks, especially people that do work it. It's kind of, I don't know, it feels kind of weird to not go at this point after all these years of doing it. So yeah, it's exciting time. I know that we're just hoping for relatively warm, but not blistering warm weather, and some good times, and hopefully everything goes really well. And so it's that week. We're here.
Yeah, you will hear it from our guest today, but we talked about this in downstairs at the office the other day. I genuinely don't think I've missed a fair, ever. And in my entire life, I think I was born and went to the fair that year because my dad's been working the hog show my entire life. And our guest today, it's really cool. I have these full circle moments, and I'm sure some of you guys crack up because they reference me over and over. We've done it for Matt too, though. We've gotten some of your people. But
I have like 2 friends. You have many.
But Terry Burks, Miss Alice is there in the background, probably making sure everybody's on time and keeping him straight. But Mr. Terry Burks, anyone that has shown and judged livestock in Kentucky is very aware of who he is. If you have the pleasure of following him on Facebook, you see where he's at, judging all over this country, and just does a phenomenal job of explaining why the heck anyone would want to keep doing that. And I think, which is kind of why, again, we paired this up for the start of the fair for that week, is because for anybody that's walking in these barns, it's like, what the heck is going on? Like I came for the South Wing. I walked over here. It smells funny, and I don't understand why all these kids are rubbing on these animals, trying to keep them happy.
Yeah.
This will give you some understanding of some of the passion and the why. And I think it's always fun to kick off the fair when all these shows start. These are these kids' Super Bowl, and it's pretty cool to hear what Terry has to say about all the travels he's done, and so much of it's alike across the country.
Yeah, guys like him are a gem to how so many things work. Like every time we lose, a guy retires from being an umpire, or those folks that spend so much of their time on your kid, have to be cherished and appreciated. And, sure, he loves this. Clearly, he's retired and doing this, he's getting something out of himself. But like we have to to praise these guys and have them put on a pedestal. This is really important as a father that folks step up and be coaches, or step up and be judges, or step up and be teachers, or whatever, youth group pastors, to whatever. These things that don't necessarily have some big monetary, value to them or something. It's what they want to do, and they have passion for youth and helping them. And I think he's a great example of that. If you don't hear that in this podcast, I don't know what you're listening to.
You're not listening, right. That's for sure.
He's way into it, and just really a neat chat with him today. And he's he's kind of like he's the judge. He's one of those.
He is sought after.
He's like one of the judges, and he's right here in Kentucky. Well, actually, for the podcast, he's not right here in Kentucky. He's actually in Virginia.
He does have a home base that he goes to sometimes.
Yeah, so awesome guy. And, as again, city boy, I appreciate anybody that does this kind of stuff, that doesn't need to. Mm-hmm. He served, in some ways too. He's done this already. He doesn't need to do it anymore, but he believes in what he's doing and has a lot of passion for it, and keeps doing it so much that's what he's retired and decided to keep going. So just a really cool podcast today, and I hope everybody likes it. And I think it's, like you said, great way to kick off the Kentucky State Fair, and we'll be there, and really excited. So.
All right, happy Fair Week. I'm Renee Carrico.
I'm Matt Hilton.
Let's get rural. So, where are you recording from today? Are we traveling to Judge right now, or are you back home in Bowling Green?
Oh, no. We haven't been in Bowling Green for months. I'm in Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Okay.
And finish up here today. I'll judge at 2:00 today, and then we go back to Ohio, and then West Virginia State Fair, and then South Carolina, and back to Virginia, and then to Maine, and then home.
Oh, okay. So we'll see you North American?
Well, that's maybe.
Yeah. So Renee wanted to interview you, so she brought you up, and I said, okay. So I'll text you, and I'm like, yeah, can you come in? Can we, because we like having in-person, podcasts.
Sure,
and you're like, sure. And
2 months,
2-3 months. I said, and then he kind of explained it. I was like, wow. Yeah. So tell our listeners, who are you, and why are you on the podcast today? What is your cool role that you do today, and what are you up to in Virginia right now?
Well, sure. My name's Terry Burks. I'm from live now presently in Scottsville, Kentucky. My wife Alice and I live there, and as to why I'm on the podcast, I guess Miss Renee thought my lifestyle is kind of unique in the world of agriculture. Uh-huh. I actually work. I am retired. My wife and I worked for the Kentucky Department of Agriculture for several years. I was a adult ag teacher in Breckinridge County, Kentucky, for a while with the adult agriculture program there, and then left there and went to the Kentucky Department of Agriculture back in the days when Billy Ray Smith was still commissioner. There worked in the division of shows and fairs and promotions primarily, and I guess that was really where I ran across Renee initially when she was a little girl. I kind of ran the swine shows in the state, and then I worked as the educational coordinator, basically meaning if there wasn't a youth livestock program to be put on in Kentucky, then I would be available to do that. So I traveled the whole state doing that, and I worked as a federal livestock grader. Primarily in the goat world at that time. My wife and I were raising sheep and goats and sending them all over the country. And as a sideline to that, I was a livestock judge. So going back to many, many years ago, before either of you were thought about, in the 80s, or actually I was on the state 4-H judging team in 1979. I was just a mere child myself. freshman in high school. Of course, was on the collegiate judging team at Western Kentucky University in '86.
Go Tops.
And then, and so then it just kind of grew from there. I started judging livestock shows, and I have two great passions in life other than my family. And of course, that's youth or quality livestock. I mean, I could just spend hours looking at livestock, and that's just my thing. And working with kids, I just love, particularly little kids, and dealing with them. I remember very fondly the first time Renee's youngest brother showed in a swine show in Madisonville, Kentucky. And at that time, he wasn't even pre-4-H age hardly. And everybody, of course, we've got rules in the state. Nobody wanted, that young to show. And we put him in the ring, and he got his ribbon, and I remember his face so well. And so that's kind of my passion. So today, I judge about 150 or more shows a year nationwide, including Mexico and Canada. My wife and I are on the road pretty well constantly. And so that's why I'm actually in Virginia today, judging here at the Rockingham County Fair. Big county fair here in Virginia, one of the elite ones here. And so I will have judged here for 3 days, and then we just kind of go here and there for the next 2 or 3 months for this thing. And before it slows down a little to where it's 1 show a week, maybe instead of 5 shows a week, but that's what I do.
Yeah. So, most people, they retire, they golf, or they go fishing a lot. I don't know. They travel. Why, you kind of alluded to that, but what is it about, like, literally the showing of it? I mean, is it the kids? Is it it sounds like you have the best of the two things you love the most all in one moment, right? Is that what it is?
Exactly.
And to do this, frankly, in retirement, this to someone that just wants to relax, just doesn't seem very relaxing, but is it to you? And I think that's just talk a little about that. Is it why is this retirement for you?
Well, you understand that I like Renee's family and so many families in the agricultural livestock side of the game. I grew up showing cattle as a youth, and just this fondness for this lifestyle of family and other livestock exhibitors and working with livestock. That was that thing in me as a child that I just loved. And so the natural progression then obviously was, as I got older, or even in 4-H and FFA, I was on the judging teams, and that's just what you did. If you showed, you judged. And so that became such a passion for me. And particularly when I got into college, I worked with Dr. Gordon Jones at that time, who was my major professor at Western there. And he just continued to instill in me that desire to be involved in animal evaluation and livestock evaluation. And so I just loved that. And it grew. My passion for livestock was always there. Now, I don't know that my passion for youth was always there, but that has grown over time as I've gotten older, obviously. And I think back about how this industry and the livestock show world influenced me. And so it's kind of that thing in our life as we get older. We say we want to give back. We want to impact the next generation or multiple generations. I've now had several opportunities to judge 3rd-generation families where I judged grandma or grandpa, and then the son or daughter, and then the next one in line. And so that has really impacted me. And so it's just one of those things. My wife and I, because we're both retired, we can travel and we can do this and go out. So we just You know, we're on the road 200 days a year or more doing this, and it's just a thing that we've grown to love, and so it's that passion for youth and livestock combined, as you said, that makes it quite unique.
Yeah, it was so funny when we decided to put you on the podcast. He said, "Do you know a judge? Like, we talk about we've had kids on and we've had people that run the shows. What about somebody that judges the show?" And I was like, "If we can catch him, I got one." And it's so funny though. We spent, and as a kid that grew up when KDA did the clinics like they did, and things have changed, good, bad, or otherwise, things have changed in different manners. Sure. The industry's changed, but I would argue, and we've talked about this, people my age have said, I don't think we always had the Beeler Burks, they would do a clinic before you would go judge livestock. And so the thought was any kid off the street that had a county fair show pig or a little goat they just got from the neighbor, if they wanted to learn how to judge livestock, they were going to at least get a little crash course that morning, and then they would go judge. And and whether it was us laughing about Beeler saying ground up butt forward, or Burks telling us about placing a set of Hereford bulls dead backwards but talking accurate so he got a high reason score, we would laugh about them, but that stuff stuck with us. And now I think we grew up and watching you on Facebook at all these places, or talking to national counterparts. They're like, a guy from Kentucky, I don't know if you know him, but he judged one of our shows. And I'm like, boy, do I. I think it's really cool for youth in Kentucky to see, I don't know, somebody that felt like just another one of the nice volunteers or one of the nice people at the Department of Ag, just helping them out. And now they're kind of on this national stage, and the same old Burks it was back then too. So I think it's really cool to look at this and see the whole thing. Talk to me when it comes to the youth side. We get so state specific. We've got our Kentucky Proud program, or we've got our Sale of Champions, Championship Drive. You get really honed into your own state. Talk about some of the cool maybe differences or some of the hilarious similarities. Like, as you've traveled the country, are good ag kids no matter where you go, or do you just feel certain states just crank them out? I mean, does it feel different or the same as you travel?
Well, there's a little of both, Renee. I think, generally speaking, let me say this, that most shows you go to, if you didn't cross the state line and see the welcome to this particular state, when you walk in that livestock barn, it could be the same set of kids. The values those families have, no matter where they are in the U.S., and I'm talking Maine to California to Minnesota to Texas, and Alaska for that matter. We spent a little time there. The kids are the same. The families are the same because the values are the same. Now, there's some differences in what I would call intensity in some states. You get into the Midwest, you get into Texas and Oklahoma. It's cutthroat. I mean, but it's because of the number of families involved. In Kentucky now, our state fair, and I just, I guess probably the biggest project now we have in Kentucky probably is the hog numbers, maybe sheep numbers. But I'm sitting here at a county fair in Virginia that has way bigger numbers in the goat county fair here than we have in our state. We go to Texas and Katie bar the door. The numbers are just incredible down there. So that intensity, the kids don't change. They all have that work ethic. They all want to be competitive. They all want to win. But it's different when, here in Kentucky, you go to a typical county fair. If there's 2 or 3 super competitive families, that's usually a pretty nice county fair. You go, the one I'm working right now in Virginia, there may be 50 competitive families, and you go to Texas and Oklahoma, and it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. So it's really a numbers thing more than it is the youth. The youth and the families are the same. It doesn't matter where you go, what part of the country you're in. It's about work ethic. It's about passion for livestock and the land and the lifestyle that the livestock show people lead. That doesn't change. It's the same, and that's what makes it fun. Is as you travel around and you meet these families and you work with these kids, that passion, that look in their eye, that desire to succeed is in every one of them. And I think that's the great thing about this program that never gets talked about. We talk about banners and buckles and all this stuff, but ultimately this program is designed to develop and grow young people so that they have this work ethic and they have this desire and this ability to stand in front of people and look them in the eye and tell them what they believe and what's important to them, and that gives them a basis for that career choice, whatever industry they go into. Maybe they're going to be a singer, maybe they're going to be a doctor, maybe they're going to be a lawyer, whatever they're going to do in life, be it out of the agriculture industry or not. This program builds those kids to do that. And I'm a perfect example of that. Renee's a perfect example of that. And so many others in our state of Kentucky that grew up in this livestock program and now are in tons and tons of different careers, but they built that basis, that foundation through the youth livestock program.
Exactly. Yeah. So, as listeners know, I'm city boy. I grew up in Louisville, and so as I've been at Farm Bureau, I'm learning still today after all these years of being part of Farm Bureau, and I wonder, can you tell one of these city folks, this neat moment that happens that the state fair is in Louisville. Sure. These folks come to the state fair, and sure, they might be coming to ride rides or go to a concert or something like that. And then they walk into this world. Okay. And I know this world. I mean, I know this feeling joining Farm Bureau or even just doing this when I was a kid coming to the state fair. It was walking into this culture and community, and it's loud and what's going on there. That sheep looks exactly like that one. Why did that win? So to you as someone that is just so ingrained in what is happening, tell someone, we have listeners that are actually in ag that don't have livestock. What are things
absolutely.
You're as one of the judges, clearly going all over the country. What are you looking for? What is the things that make things different in your view? Obviously the breed and depends on lots of things, but just basically, like if I'm coming to the state fair and I happen to go into that wing and I'm wandering around going, what is going on? And I still, after all these years, I'll watch a judge. He'll look at 3 and that one looks good. And he got 4th. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. So what is it like that? What are you looking for? What is the kid actually doing that's positive, negative? What are they looking for so that if someone was to stumble into that part of the state fair, they'd kind of get an idea what's going on here?
Absolutely. You've asked the $1 million question there.
Right.
A lot of folks struggle with and understand, and I hope your listeners understand. Livestock evaluation involves two facets. One is the animal evaluation, which is kind of what we think of. That's what gets promoted so much, where you're comparing one animal to another. The other facet of livestock showing is what we call showmanship, in which the child is evaluated on their ability to show the animal and it has no emphasis whatsoever on the quality of the animal.
Mhm.
So that person who's walking into that arena, or they walk into Freedom Hall or to Broadbent, and they're sitting there watching this show, and they're going, well, they're just trotting them around, and judge lines them up, and then he or she describes them. And sometimes they use words that, oh man, I don't have a clue what they're talking about.
Right.
But understand that the animal evaluation, and for that matter, a little bit showmanship evaluation, is not an exact science. It's not, this one has this, we check these boxes, it wins. Yes, there are differences, and no two animals look alike, and that's the hard part for a lot of folks. Particularly, you think about the sheep world, and they've got all this wool on them, and you say, "Well, that one's big and fuzzy. This one's not as big and fuzzy.
That must be good, right?"
And, yeah. So the big fuzzy one must be the good one, and then all of a sudden the judge sticks that one sixth or seventh, and you go, "Man, I just don't understand. I don't get this."
Yeah.
But every judge evaluates the same things. Most of the time, I mean, depending on what show you happen to be at. If you're at a dairy show, be it dairy cattle or dairy goats, there are certain criterias that judges evaluate in those animals. When we get to the meat animal species, the beef cattle, the sheep, the goats, the hogs, there are those same criterias, but in a different priority. And every judge, we judge them for the same things, but as a judge, perhaps, we prioritize the importance of those criteria differently.
Okay.
For example, with me, I'm a structure guy. They got to be sound structure. They've got to be level top. They've got to move correctly. Their feet and legs, the bone work of the animal is what I call the foundation of the animal. So that's when I judge breeding animals, be it heifers, gilts, ewes, whatever. That becomes my number one priority. You get a gentleman like Warren Beeler, and Warren was always, as Renee can tell you, he's a muscle guy. It's just muscle, muscle, muscle. Yes, they still have to be sound for Warren, but then he prioritizes muscle very, very high in his ranking of what's important to him. I do the same. I mean, muscle is very, very important, but for me, sometimes rib shape and balance and those things perhaps have a higher priority at times than maybe just muscle does. And as the industry changes over the years, I think tobacco I was showing and just starting judging as a 4-H member, the kind of animals we picked then were very different than we did in the 80s and 90s, and really different than what we pick today. So the industry changes because that is consumer driven. As you know, we went through in our country, a period of time there where everyone was so health conscious and couldn't have any fat on these animals. And the hogs, for example, were just really, really lean and crazy heavy muscle. Well, that was phenomenal from that standpoint. But what people figured out, particularly producers, those animals had incredibly lean muscular carcasses, but then we ran into some issues with pale, soft, exudative pork quality. We ran into problems with those hogs wouldn't grow very efficiently because they wouldn't eat. And so we changed the kinds that we were picking to try to find that balance between what the consumer needs and what the producer can practically, efficiently, and economically produce. And so that pendulum, we call it the pendulum in the livestock world, it swings. And so as times change, you think all you've got to do is go back and look at old magazines, and you see pictures I was looking at some pictures this morning of some animals at the Iowa State Fair in the 30s and 40s. And the hogs then, and then the hogs in the 90s and early 2000s compared to the hogs now, they don't even look like you're looking at the same species. But that's just, again, it's judge specific in that, yeah, we all evaluate the same things. When I worked with kids all over the country and in clinics and teaching, I teach priorities of what's the most important to the least important. And every judge judges on that. But how we rank those priorities may be different. Someone in California may rank a priority much higher than someone in South Texas or someone in Florida or in the Northeast. I mean, the environment changes the twist on that a little bit as well. And as you travel, or at least as I travel around the country, I see a little bit of that. I see the different regions of the country. The animals are just a little different because of environment. You go to the Northwest, Montana, and the Northwest, those cattle have unreal amount of hair on them. You get into Florida, you get a little Brahma influence in Texas or whatever. Those cattle don't have any hair on them. And it's just an environmental difference in how those animals are grown and how they're genetically built. And so it makes it a lot of fun to do that.
Yeah, I tell people all the time from a judging, I did a lot of development, obviously, to be comfortable to speak in front of people. I've never been told to slow down enough, I guess, because that never has changed. But speed's been there. But whether it was given reasons at livestock judging, whether it's given speeches in 4-H and FFA, whatever it may be, a lot of things. What I have always told people about reasons, though, is it is the most reflective of what you're going to do later. And a lot of people don't think that makes sense. But every judge's opinion of the final placing is a lot of times different. But if you
Absolutely.
can accurately understand what you're looking at and all you did was change priority, you're not lying. And so that was a lot of things that you guys taught us, and specifically you, Mr. Terry, was when we were in those trainings, it was like, if you place them backwards, as long as you don't lie to me, I can't knock your reason score. Well, in life, you're going to have disagreements. You're going to have to learn how to reason with people. You're going to have to, whether that's on the farm, whether that's at the office, in your marriage, in your family, whatever it may be. And so I tell people all the time, learning how to say, yeah, there is something wrong with the thing I think that's the best in this class, but I still like it the best because of this. That statement right there,
absolutely.
Learning how to do that in life and with confidence, but understanding that you might be wrong in the end, but it's okay because you were accurate and reflected your thoughts with confidence. I mean, that's such a big piece. And I think anyone that's in that barn that's hearing and you see a kid that's crying excited and you see a kid leaving that's crying sad, those are all these learning moments of understanding that sometimes you walk in and you're going to be the bee's knees and you're the best one out there, and sometimes it's not your day. But that learning moment of understanding that guy's reasoning with you on a microphone and that changes soon, or you learn things from that and you learn how to be that guy reasoning someday. It's a very full circle moment. It's really cool to hear you explain it to the random person out of Louisville going, because from an ag kid perspective, it's dead on what we learned. Just trying to figure out the right perspective to talk it through.
And I think one of the things that sometimes people don't understand is that the perfect animal has never been created. A lot of folks think they've had the perfect one, but it's not. I mean, there's not a single animal. I mean, even my class winners, when I talk about them in class, or I talk my champions, there's always that thing you say, this one is phenomenal in so many areas, but if I could just change him in this one spot. And And Renee, you're exactly right in your description there. Sometimes we think the one great thing this program teaches is the ability to evaluate what you see and to just tell the truth, just to tell the truth. Now that doesn't mean, and so, I can remember over the years, people, maybe I beat an animal. Maybe I put them last in class. And then they come up to me after the show and, you can always tell in their face kind of the mood they're in. And they say, well, I won this same show 2 weeks ago with the same animal. And I said, well, I appreciate that. I understand that. Understand that animals change in just hours. I did the Wisconsin State Fair several years ago, and I mean and you didn't pick the champions till the grand drive late that night, and I knew, and everyone in that barn knew the champion lamb was going to be the Hampshire Weather. I mean, he was just incredible. Well, it was about 115 that day. And he heat stressed between the show and the grand drive, and they couldn't get him kind of back together. And he comes out for the champion drive, and he wasn't even close. I mean, he had lost his shape, he lost his bloom. I mean, so in just a matter of a few hours, this animal had gone from what was obviously the best one to not in the top 5 overall. So people need to understand that animals change and environmental situations can change quickly, or they can change over a long period of time. And that's why we show them. I mean, if the same animal always won, why would we show these things?
Right.
But they don't. They rarely ever. I mean, occasionally there's that unique one that wins a lot, but it's rare. And I think, Renee, you started to talk about it just a little bit, and it's so true. In our culture and in our society today, if someone doesn't agree with a person, we just write them off. So many folks just write that off. Well, you're wrong. Well, what this program really tries to teach, and animal evaluation tries to teach, is maybe we don't agree on the same one, but I can listen to you and say, okay, I see what that person's saying. Maybe I don't agree with it, but I can see it. I can appreciate their evaluation of this. And I'm really, that's to me, I worry now that I'm getting old and think about these things. I worry that in our culture today, that because we may not agree, we can't get along. We can't be, in this livestock thing, I see kids, they want to beat each other so bad, it's obvious. But as soon as it's over, as soon as that show's done, man, they're all sitting at the show boxes together, they're eating ice cream, they're doing whatever, they're high-fiving each other. Everything's cool. That's what we need more of, and that's what the livestock program does so well is, I know the Laurent family got the greatest jollies in their life of beating the Firkwin family back in the day. Okay? But when it was over, they were all sitting together, all telling stories, that's what this program does so well, is building the community. And yeah, the community doesn't always agree and we want to beat each other, but when it's over, if that family needs something, then the first ones that line up are those in that community to help. And that's the great thing about this program.
Yeah, I could not agree with all of that more. It's we need a big old dose of that in the world anymore, and that's not just here. That's not just in Kentucky or this country. That's just in the world. So And it's cool you having that international, really perspective on that and seeing what this can do. I have another question for you because for any of the kids that or people, I'll say this is more of an ag person question. It's expensive. It's not like the real industry. These people are crazy. Right. When we showed in the 90s, we had 2 feed pans and 1 bag of feed, and we gave one a little more than the other. And now these kids got 400 additives, and they're having to do, all that. They can't afford it. That's the same price as a car.
Right.
All right. So here's where I want to end this thing from a explanation perspective. We have had a year, and you remember it well, I'm sure. We had many years for the first 4, but my man Dan, we bought some Durocs from God knows where. This was before DLD started, before he started raising his own, and they were they were some big, tall, flat ones. And a couple shows in, we realized this was not a good do. This is not good. And I said, hey, buddy, this is a showmanship year, which is every competitive kid's worst nightmare. But explain to the listeners why any kid in this state that is gifted a pig, pays $50 for a pig, gets a goat from the neighbor, why that kid can have a showmanship year and still leave a ring with a grin on his face that he had control over. Talk through showmanship for me, because I think for the ag people in this world that think this is disconnected and, yeah, it raises good kids, but it's too expensive. It's not like the industry. Talk through showmanship, because that is my kickback every time is showmanship.
I agree. I had a huge showmanship competition here this week in Virginia, and I made the comment in the show. And then let's back up and lay a little foundation for your audience who don't know. Showmanship, as I mentioned earlier, is a competition in which the child is evaluated on their ability to show and present that animal. So you can have a $50 feeder pig that somebody gave you, and he's not very good, and it has no reflection on the quality of the animal. It's all on that child's ability to show and present that animal. Now, the one thing that a lot of folks don't understand in showmanship is that typically, and it's not always, but typically, those kids who are really successful in showmanship, often they may not have the best animal in the barn. They may not win the show, but they're going to be competitive in the show. And people say, well, you just said doesn't matter the quality of the animal. I agree, and I did say that. But those kids who are successful in showmanship don't win showmanship at the show. They win showmanship at home. The amount of work they put in, the amount of time they spend in the barn working those animals and just trying to get them better and better and better. Those are the kids who find success in showmanship. So you talk about Daniel and his big, tall, flat Durocs. I remember that year well with him.
I figured.
and no, his hogs were not competitive, but those hogs were healthy. They were well presented. They were well cared for. They were well fed. They were well managed. Quality-wise, they weren't great ones. But Daniel and so many kids who are good at showmanship, maybe they're second, maybe they're third in the animal class, but they're competitive in showmanship because of the amount of work and effort they put in at home. Now, I'm a firm believer that the harder you're going to find, and that's primarily in the showmanship world. But there are those kids that just have a God-given ability to do this game. I mean, there are folks, when you grab a steer by the halter and you're scared to death of the thing, that animal's going to know that. That hog's going to sense that. That sheep or goat's going to get that vibe from you that you're not comfortable. and they're not going to perform. Understand that showmanship is a team competition. It's you and the animal. And so that animal's got to feel that sense of your comfort. And that's why those kids who spend all that time at the barn are so good at it, because they have that relationship built with that animal to do that. Showmanship is one of those things that, as you said, I showmanship year. and that's so true, because, sometimes, and I'm a perfect example of that. When I grew up as a kid showing cattle, Simmental cattle, we never bought one. I mean, we just showed what we raised. So everything I showed was bred and owned, meaning I owned the mama, I bred the cow, I raised the calf. That's what I showed. And so no, I didn't win very much as a youth showing, but my deal was showmanship. When I showed up, my deal was, if I just get along in the show, I'm happy. But now you're going to have to beat me in showmanship, because that's where I took my pride. The great thing about showmanship is it's you. It's that child, their work ethic, the amount of time. You can tell the minute that child walks in the ring, that drive, that initiative they have to want to win. And then you see some kids walk in the ring and they got little Fluffy's head on the ground, dragging him across the ring, and you go, well, you're not going to win. and I'm a firm believer, and I believe this with all my heart, Renee and Matt, when you can almost play showmanship 3 steps in the ring. You can see it in those kids, that drive, that want, that desire. And then you just hope they don't mess up somewhere in the thing, or the animal mess up with them, and you wind up beating them. Just yesterday, I had a little girl in the Pee Wee division, and here the Pee Wee division's competitive. I mean, this girl was killer. She was phenomenal. She's 6 years old. Got that look. I mean, when she walked in the ring, I could feel holes in my chest. Her looking at me, she was so intense and just so good. And almost at the end, that sheep kind of jumped and got away from her. And I thought, oh my gosh. And everybody just kind of stood there like, what do we do? Because everybody knew she was winning the thing. She just walked out in the center of the ring, grabbed that sheep, put it back in line. Nobody helped her catch it. She's 6 years old. and I thought, okay, any other child in here probably would have either just stood there and looked at that thing or never been able to catch it. I still made her champion showman because she was incredible. And she caught her own sheep when it got loose in this huge arena. So showmanship is one of those things that even a city kid in Louisville, Matt, if you got some place you can keep an animal, maybe a community barn, something, maybe you don't have the money. Maybe, the amount of additives and stuff. I mean, there's more magic powder you can buy today than you can imagine to feed these things. Does it all work? Probably not. But anyway, you can spend a fortune on. But the thing is, it's about the showmanship part is such a big deal, because the kids who work hard, the kids who live at the barn, they find success in that arena. They always do. They always find success. And that's one of the great things about this program.
Yeah, and I'm going to circle back, and then I'm going to definitely let us round out, because I want to be respectful of your time and everybody's. But you said something earlier, way in the beginning of this, where you said a lot of times a kid that's good at showmanship will still place higher than people expect in the market show. And I think what people need to understand, when you see the girl, I believe her last name's Dadson, out of California, she was viral. Everybody was sending me her video.
Know her well.
And everybody was like, is this what you looked like when you did showmanship? Okay, well, no, I wasn't as good as her, to be honest. But yes, you stare down the judge. And they were like, why? You got to be looking at the judge, so when the judge tells you to move, you're looking. if you're looking at your feet and he has to walk over to you and tell you, hey, honey, you need to move over there, that's not productive. That's not efficient. If he wants that hog to come right at you, you got to be looking at him so you know. So that's why there is that drive, that look. You keep the animal between you and the judge so they have a good view. You're not obstructing the view. It's those kinds of things that are happening. But I always tell people, as someone who started raising her own hogs, begrudgingly of my older siblings, they didn't start great. But I worked hard, and if you show well, I had a knock-kneed barrow. Warren Beeler will never let me forget.
I remember him well.
He sat at that head table announcing and watched me hide the front end of this thing. Every time that judge would come in front of him, I'd turn him around and show my butt. And finally, I should have been 10th. I should have gotten the gate. I mean, the thing was terrible. I got to 5th. He finally walks in front, makes a face, and pins me. And Beeler comes up behind the pin, and he goes, I don't know how you hid that thing, but my gosh, girl, our judge got snowed in or rained in. Something happened. Beeler judges the open show. My butt's in 10th the next day. And he goes, I walked in the ring and turned that pig quick so he couldn't see the front end. And he shook his head and said, not today, Laurent. Stuck me in 10. But I say all that to say a really good showman knows what's good and bad on their pig, can put them in the right place. They're the kid in the barn that a buddy down the way that does buy the $1,000 animal says, hey, I got 2 in a class. I want you to come help me show. Because that kid does have the look and they do have the drive. And so I just wanted to end on that because I do think from an ag perspective, sometimes the show world gets a bad vibe on the money side. But I just, man, if you can talk, I see so many kids that are Daniel's age and younger that they work their tail off. And it's so cool to see some of those kids now starting to judge. You know, they were judging themselves and now they're judging county fairs. And they're like, listen, I want to spend my time in showmanship because that's the only reason I'm behind this microphone is because somebody believed in me while I was working my butt off in showmanship. And I just think that's so cool to see kind of that full circle moment. So I appreciate you. I appreciate what you've done over the years, what you're still doing. And please give a shout out to Miss Alice because, listen, you're awesome. But we know who's getting you everywhere. If we need a dinner reservation or we need to know where the heck you are, I know who I'm calling, and it's Miss Alice. So shout out to your other half. Correct. But
she's good. She's good. As a matter of fact, she's with me right now.
I figured. Well, all right. Well, do you? If anyone, I know this is always a loaded question, but we will give it to the listeners. If anybody does take a listen and they're like, "Man, that guy sounds awesome. I wonder how I could get on his schedule for next year." Is that something? Are you pretty well scheduling out all the time for shows as you're traveling this much? Is that something people can reach out to you guys and do?
I'm booking. You know, it's for me. Because I'm older, I've done all the big ones, and they were such an honor to do. But my passion now is the smaller shows and the county shows and the regional deals, just because I get to spend so much more time with the kids. But yeah, I'm booking right now into 27, even into 28 a little bit, and so people just call, and if I'm open, I'll come.
Well, perfect. Well, if any of our listeners are interested, you have my contact info. Give me a shout out, and I will get you connected with the Burks, and we will figure out if there is an opportunity for him to come to your local or regional show. So
yes,
awesome. I'd love to do it.
Yeah, thank you for what you do. I think anybody that's supporting youth, and from T-ball to showing to anything, the amount of time that you're putting into this is appreciated, and so we appreciate your time today as well. Taking a break
I
to talk to us.
Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys.
Yes,
absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Terry, and thank you, listeners. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast and listen to some of those older episodes, and we'll see you next time on Let's Get Rural.